Okay, welcome to our Rockin' Weekly call. My name is Jana Garcia, and I'm a Diamond Ambassador. And I have Mary Andy Martin on the call with me. And you guys, if you're just getting on, you can turn your cameras on if you'd like, or you can leave them off. It's up to you. There's a little thing in the corner where you can change your speaker view if you want to just see the speakers, or you can leave it like that to see everyone. So Mary Ann, welcome to the call. Thank you for being on. Mary Ann is a Gold Ambassador, and she is going to share with us tonight. I have lots of questions for you. I'm going to let you talk, and then if you don't answer my questions, I'm going to ask you my questions. So first of all, can you just kind of introduce yourself to us and tell us about you? I'm going to mute myself because my dog's barking.
Sure. Well, I'm really honored to be asked to talk to you all. I'm a Gold Ambassador. I've been Gold just a little over a year. I started with Plexus in August of 2015, and Jana and I talked last week about what I've been doing different, and I really have been doing a lot of things different, really just since April. And it's really paid off for me. So as she said in the post, I've added 9 level 1s in June, and my team has added 5 more. So we're at 14 additional for the month. So it's good so far. Looking forward to the next 3 days.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I want to tell everybody to make sure you take some really good notes. Because after the call, I'm going to do a post in the Rockin' Group, and I'd love for you guys to add, everything that you took away from this call, because we are going to want to make sure that we have it all recorded. And also, if you have a question, you can put it in the chat, and I'll be watching that throughout the call so that we can ask Mary Ann at the end if there's any questions that you guys have. So when you say you've done things differently, kind of what did you do starting out that y'all obviously you got to Gold doing whatever you were doing, so you were successful. So what was it that you did to get to Gold?
Well, I think I just really talked to everybody about Plexus. I'm not a shy person. My mom says I never met a stranger, and I am not I don't keep things private. So I kind of just lay all my cards on the table. So I really just was willing to share about what I had changed in my life with everyone who it made sense to share with. Not complete strangers, but really pretty much everybody else. And getting to Gold was really hard work. I'm not going to lie. It really was. And it really would bring me down when people would turn off their auto ship, which used to mean they weren't qualified for commission. And I used to really get down about it. And I had to learn to put all of that in my pocket and not take it personally. And once I kind of got over that, it really helped me a lot to know that I just have to do the best job that I can do to inspire them and to advise them, and then the rest is up to them. So I think that was the biggest lesson that I learned in the first year getting to Gold, was that I had to let go of my personal attachment to their outcomes. I'm a yellow personality, so I really care about people and want to help them. And so it really hurt my feelings and really got me down when they didn't give it enough of a chance to really make a difference in their life. But I had to kind of bless and release, as we say, and learn to let it go. So that really helped me.
So you came to the conclusion of what we always say. It sounds so cliche, but some will, some won't, so what, right? Like we get to that point where we realize that, we just had this conversation in one of my chats today. And it's like a lot of people think that you can come into this business and you can just get rich quick. And so their attention span is super small.
Yep.
And, you know, they're like, well, how can I make money but not have to work? And it's like, well, that's not really what we do. You know, we work, we work on our own time. And I think that's probably the hardest thing about it, is that we are our own bosses. So if we're too lenient of a boss on ourselves, then we're not going to get anything done. And that's, I think, the hardest thing about it, is that you have to be so conscientious of your time. And also that, like you said, with people who sign up who decide not to do it, or they're not consistent, to just realize that the workers and the really ambitious people are few and far between. It's just a matter of finding those.
Right. Absolutely.
So what changed in April that you felt like that you started doing differently?
Well, a few things changed. Really, in December, I really changed how I talk to people about Plexus, and I started talking to everyone about the business. Everyone. They might not have any interest. That's okay. I was still going to tell them a little short bit about how amazing the business is. And so that was really back in December. I really have not had fast runners on my team. And so I was looking for them. I was looking for people who were going to grab hold and really enjoy this business and grow their business alongside me. So I started talking to everybody about the business. It's okay if they don't want it. I'm not pushy, but I started talking about it. And I didn't really talk to people before that much about the business unless it was something that I really thought they needed or wanted, or they brought it up. So that was kind of the first shift. And then in April, I started holding office hours. So I went from just haphazardly having time to work, which we all know falls way on the back burner for most of us because we're busy moms and dads, and we have lots of things that need to get done every day. So I started blocking out office hours, and my kids go to school at 8:35, and I would come home, and at 9 o'clock I started office hours. And that also really helped me to be able to keep track of my prospects and be able to sit here and have quiet, have the phone, have the computer, and be able to really make notes. Because that's another thing that I found was really lacking in my method of operation, was keeping track of people. So for me, having office hours was really helpful in my productivity, and I was able to really follow up with everyone. Then the other thing that I did differently was I started using a CRM website to track my prospects and help me follow up. And so you can put your prospects in there. I downloaded all my Facebook friends and uploaded them into the CRM, and I didn't have to input a whole bunch of data and stuff like that to get started. And then I went through, and as I talked to people, I made notes on their screen, and I made tasks to follow up so that it would email me the task list, and then I knew exactly what I needed to do. So here's one from the other day. I don't know if y'all can see that. It just lists all the tasks that you have to do, and these tasks are ones that are past due. Can you see that? Okay. And so it's really simple to use. The one that I'm using, Jana Townsend turned me on to, and it's called Less Annoying CRM. It's a terrible name, but it's affordable and easy to use. And no matter what system you have, I was trying to use a spreadsheet before that. And hey, Jayla. And spreadsheets just didn't work for me. I wasn't always sitting at my computer in order to make notes on my spreadsheet. And then at the end of the day, I was too tired to go back and list all the notes of everybody I had talked to. So this has been, sticky notes everywhere. Jayla and I are the same. I still have sticky notes everywhere, but now they have notes about things I need to do, not people I need to talk to. So that's a little bit about kind of how I changed things in the last couple months. I've been looking for a system to help track my prospects for a while, and I think it's crucial to be able to follow up with everyone you talk to. You know, they say it takes 8 to 12 contacts before somebody's going to be ready to commit to buy or to join. And I certainly have found that to be true. So having a way to track them is crucial. No matter what your system is, you just need to find one that works for you. I was using a paper planner, and then I was using a spreadsheet, and neither of those were really efficient for me. So this is what I've come to.
What is a CRM exactly? Customer relations management?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. And it's basically, are you printing this out every day?
So you don't have to print it out. It's a website, basically. It's accessible from my phone and my iPad and my computer, because I work on all three. And every day, the tasks that you have scheduled for that day get emailed to you. So if you want to, you can print them out, and then you can update your CRM at the end of the day. But if I'm sitting here at my desk, it's easier for me just to have it open and be able to make notes right as I contact people. But you can do it whichever way it works. I'm not selling their product. I don't get a kickback or anything like that. There's lots of contact management options out there. I just think you have to have some system in place that works well for you. And for me, paper didn't work well. Spreadsheets didn't work well. This one has really helped me feel like I'm organized and on top of things.
So what you do is all online. You're doing your stuff online. You just printed out on paper.
I just printed this. This came to my email on today. This came to my email today, and it tells me what I had scheduled for today and what tasks are overdue, because I was in the mountains for 5 days. I have a lot of tasks overdue that I actually did, but I didn't update them on the website. So this one sends me an email every day that I have tasks scheduled, and you can choose to print it out or not. You can just update the things that you do on the CRM itself.
Okay. So that was one of my questions, was how you keep track and how you keep organized. But that's probably made a really big difference in your business, is just keeping organized.
It's been huge, because I've never been shy about talking to people. So what I needed was really a system that helped me to know who I needed to follow up when and what they said the last time I talked to them, because it might have been a while since I talked to them, but I still wanted to know what we talked about.
So in that system, you actually can search a name and it will bring up what you last talked about, because you made the notes on there.
If you made the notes, yes, it will bring them up. You can search by prospect name, and it will bring up everything that you've ever made a note about in there, and all the tasks that you scheduled for that person. Like, if I wanted to follow up with them, whether you did it or not, it'll show you all the tasks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I'm not, like I said, I'm not promoting their specific CRM. There's lots of them out there. There's lots of systems that work for people. And I just think it's super important to find a system for organizing your prospects and maintaining your contacts that works for you.
Right. And yesterday on our reach out call, we talked about how some people they like more streamlined computer stuff, and some people like pen and paper type things. Yeah. And so we talked about how it's so important to do what works for you. And I know one thing is, and we'll do a little plug for Alyssa Bauer, because she has a really great, and go ahead, Alyssa, put it in the comments, what your book is called, and there's a website for it, and it's she's got one. Yeah, I got one too. It's DMO.
I used it a lot.
Yeah, Alyssa put the website. We'll also put the website in the Rockin' group under the call, under the takeaways for our notes, and so that if you're not where you can see the chat, you can see that. It's a really great book for keeping up with. If you like writing things down and you like to see it right in front of you, then that would be a good system for that. If you are a computer technology type person and you want to be able to search names and have it all streamlined like that, you might want to go for what Marianne and Jayla are doing online. So do it to cater to what makes you feel like that you're good with that. For me, that kind of makes me feel a little twitchy because I'm not just so like organized online like that. But Rod would love that. Like he probably will download that and love that. Whereas mine is more pen and paper. I kind of have to see, even with my calendar, like I'm so bad about that I have to, like I have my notebook calendar and I have to take pictures of it so I'll have it on my phone. Like that's how bad I want to use my phone calendar. I have to take pictures so I can go look at the picture and see what's on my calendar. That's really bad. But that's just kind of how I operate, and that's how my mind thinks. But whatever way you can be organized is what really will help your business succeed. If you can be organized, because we're contacting a lot of people. And so if you're not keeping organized with that, they're just going to get lost in the shuffle. And then you're going to be just spinning circles and not getting anything done. It's kind of like when you have your IPAs and you decide to go scroll Facebook instead of reaching out to anybody, then you spend an hour and you feel like you've worked for an hour, but you really haven't. You've actually wasted time during that hour chasing rabbit trails. And I know everyone on here knows how easy it is to get distracted on Facebook. Somebody posts a real sad story about a dog and you're like suddenly watching this video that's 10 minutes long and you're crying your eyes out because something happened to the dog. And then you're like, oh my goodness, I was supposed to be doing IPAs and I'm watching this dog. It's just so easy to get sidetracked like that.
It is, you're right.
It is. And so keeping track and organized in a system like this keeps your mind focused on what you're supposed to be doing as opposed to chasing rabbit trails. And so you have a lot of Facebook friends, that can get really overwhelming to try to remember who you talked to and what they said last or if they responded. So that brings me to my next question. We talked about the other day how you have been friending new people, first of all, and trying to expand your friends list on Facebook. Are most of the people that you've sponsored are Facebook friends or people you've met online?
Most of them, yes, not all.
Okay.
I have some people who are not even on social media,
But
and that's interesting.
when you changed and you suddenly went this other way, your goal was to expand your circle and get more friends, but be strategic about it.
Yes.
Get more relationships is what you told me the other day, is that you were building relationships. So first of all, how did you expand your circle? Where did you go to find more friends did you use Facebook, or you said you use Pinterest too, or just Facebook?
No, pretty much all Facebook.
Okay. So what did you do to gain more friends?
Well, let me tell you, when I started Plexus, I had no interest in the business. So even if people tell you, no, they don't want anything to do with the business, they don't know until later. It's totally possible that people change their mind, because here I am and I am all in. So when I started with Plexus, I had 230 Facebook friends. And Jana and I talked the other day. I really did not have a hot market. I was a hot mess and had been for 8 years. And so my hot market had pretty much dwindled away. You could probably count my mom in my hot market, and that's about it. I don't have sisters. I only have one brother, and we're not a big family. And so my hot market was really nothing, or I could count on one hand, maybe. So I had to really learn how to add Facebook friends, because I think being friends on Facebook is crucial for people's education process about gut health and about our products and about our testimonies and about our compensation plan and all of that. If you tried to sit down with somebody and give them that education, if they were not a Facebook friend, you'd be talking for days about all the things that we want people to understand. So in my opinion, adding people as Facebook friends is really crucial. So for a long time, I was afraid to do that. And even after I started working the business, I didn't want to just friend people that I didn't really know. And again, about the time that about 3 or 4 months before I went gold, I went, yeah, I got to get over myself and just do it. So I started looking at who Facebook suggests that I be friends with. And if we had 2 friends in common, I sent them a friend request. And I meet a lot of people. So I started friend requesting everybody I met. This past weekend, I was at Latin American Heritage Camp for Adoptive Families, and I literally met probably 100 people. I have a list in my phone because I didn't have cell service up there. So I couldn't friend request them right away, but I made a list in my phone of everybody I met and everybody I talked to one-on-one. I didn't talk a lot about Plexus, but I made sure that I established a relationship. And I told people, hey, I'm going to friend request you on Facebook later when we get home. I hope we can stay in touch. So I strategically tried to grow my Facebook friends. And then what I do when someone accepts my Facebook friend request, I get a little notice, a little flag in Messenger that they're a new friend. And I immediately go and send them a message and say, hey, I'm really glad we've connected this way. And I go to their page. I learn some stuff about them because maybe I know a lot, maybe I don't. And then I always try to go back to Messenger and ask them a question. So I was talking a little bit about this on our team call last night. And I always say people really love to get compliments. It makes them feel good. And there's something really unique and special about everyone. So if I know something that I would like to compliment them on, I do. Or if I go to their Facebook page and I do a little research about them, then for sure there's probably something that I can say I appreciate about them, or I like their haircut, or you have a cute dog, or whatever it is. And I always try to ask them a question because then they're likely to answer my question. And it starts that communication.
So do you, me and Rod were talking about this earlier, the very first initial contact with somebody, maybe, obviously these people that you're talking about, you friended and they were expecting your friend request. But
yes.
Yeah, but there are some people that you friended from friend suggestions, or maybe a friend of a friend. And
hundreds and hundreds of people.
So if somebody like that who wasn't expecting your friend request and they accept your friend request, would you then go and, like you said, you send them a message immediately? Do you say, thank you for accepting my friend request? Like, how do you start that initial conversation?
No, I just say, I'm so glad to be connected with you on Facebook. That's it. I don't say thanks for accepting my friend request. That makes me feel like maybe I shouldn't have.
Right.
So I just say, I'm really glad to be connected. And then, like I said, I don't say anything else right away. They might respond and say, yeah, me too. But I go look at their wall, at their profile, and I learn something about them. Because I may or may not know why I friend requested them by that point. You know, it might be months later they accept my friend request.
Right.
So I go try to learn something about them. If I don't know who they are or how we're friends, I try to figure it out. And then I'll go back to Messenger and I'll pay them a compliment, ask them a question, tell them they have a really cute dog, or I'll say something about how we know each other.
Okay. So Jessica's asking, if you compliment them in a message, why not just compliment them like on a picture, like on Facebook? Because you want to get that conversation going one-on-one.
Yeah. I might do that too.
Yeah.
You know, like if there's a picture of them, I might compliment in the comments. I always try to comment and like a few of their most recent posts if they have any. Believe it or not, I have some Facebook friends who don't post on Facebook. And that's harder, for sure. But, yeah, you know, I might comment that I love their haircut or whatever on a post. But then I might go to private message and say, hey, I really like, I really like your haircut. What made you decide to do it? Did you model it after a picture that you had? Or if they're local, I might say, who did it? Who cut your hair? I have a lot of Facebook friends that are not local. So, that's, again, learning something about the person.
Right. I think too, getting a message from somebody, a lot of times that puts that you into their mind, and then they go start trying to figure out how they know you, or they go look at your walk. It's
Yes.
it sparks their curiosity, because you message them. Sometimes just liking or commenting on something, they don't, you're scrolling Facebook, you see that they like, and you're like, oh, that's sweet, she did that. But if they're a popular person, they might get lots of likes and lots of comments, and they just think, oh, that's just one of my Facebook friends. But then if you message them, it's like, oh, I need to go look at her wall and see who this person is. I've had a lot of people do that. They'll go, and I know that they do, because they'll go like something on my page after I message them before they even respond.
Right, right.
So
yeah,
I think
for sure.
it makes them feel good.
And I mean, I've even, so you were asking me about how I've increased my circle of Facebook friends. I also am a member of a lot of groups, especially local groups, and some big national groups. I find it really a lot easier to connect with people in smaller Facebook groups, because you can comment on more posts, and you kind of develop a reputation of being active in that group. I have celiac disease. I'm in some groups for celiacs that have like 132,000 people. Well, guess what? Every post gets 185 comments. It's pretty hard for anyone to know your name, like to become accustomed with your name, and kind of to develop a reputation as being, someone who is knowledgeable in the area, if you're in a group that's that huge. So I have found more success connecting in smaller, like more local, like I live in a town called Broomfield. So I'm in a bunch of Broomfield moms groups, Broomfield buy-sell trade groups, things like that. And I have added several team members from friendships that developed off of those groups. Some of these people I don't know in person. Even though they're local, I don't know them. I know them only because of my interaction on the groups.
Right.
Also, anytime, I love those buy sell trade pages, and anytime I buy anything or anyone buys anything from me, I friend request the person. Mm-hmm. So I just never miss an opportunity to add a new Facebook friend. I'm sure I do miss an opportunity. I try never to miss an opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. I have also heard people say, if it's an appropriate group for this, like say for instance, if it's a neighborhood group or a group in your town, that you could just go on there and put a post and say, hey, I'm looking for more friends in this area. Yep. And absolutely. They suddenly will get 20, 30, 40 friend requests, and they didn't even have to do any of the work. They just posted.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
and
people often do that when they're getting ready to move into your town.
Right.
They'll join the local moms Facebook page, and they'll put a post. Hey, I'm moving. Somebody did it this spring. They said, hey, I'm moving to your town on June 1st. I'd love some friends to meet up with. Does anyone have any information about this specific school that my kids will be going to? Well, it happened to be the school my kids go to. So I friend requested her. I said, yes, my kids go to that school. They're finishing 4th and 5th grade. I'd love to meet you when you move to town. And, I'm happy to give you any information. So then I went to private chat. I went to Messenger, and I sent her a message. And I just said, I'm so happy to connect with you. I hope you love living here. If there's anything I can do, please reach out, and let's make sure to get together when you get settled. So anytime I see posts like that, and for sure you could make your own post. I haven't, but you could for sure. Yeah. And moms, momming is a lonely business sometimes. And so if anybody posts like that, for sure people are going to jump on and say, absolutely, what do you want to do? You want to have coffee? You want to get together for a play date? Like, generally we're all here to have each other's back.
Yeah, I love that. And last week on our reach out call at lunch, Erin O'Keefe was on there, and she, I mean, her tip was so brilliant to start a Facebook group for each one of your kids for their graduating class. So even if you had, a fourth grader and it was 2025, you could do, class of 2025 and invite all the kids' parents that are in your grade to that group. And then obviously you have to be their friends to add them to the group. So it's a really good way to, like Jessica said, not be a creeper.
Yeah.
To people that you don't know very well. But obviously we all try to find ways to be friends with our kids' parents, and it may be something you don't feel like you know them well enough to ask them to be your Facebook friend. But if you created a group like that and said, hey, this would be a great place for us to privately share class party pictures, anytime we go on field trips and one parent is taking a picture, we can all share them in here, and it would be a lot easier than having to send them to our kids, each other's phones. Be a lot easier to put them in this group. And it doesn't have to be a super active group at all. It's just, just for special occasions, even birthday parties. You can share birthday party invitations. I mean, I just thought that was such a great idea, and definitely something I'm going to do for all three of my kids.
Yeah, that is brilliant.
So yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
I wrote it down last week.
Gonna be down on that.
It's great that we can all learn from each other. That's what I love. So what the infamous question we always get is what do you do when somebody doesn't respond? If you message somebody and you give them their compliment, you do your thing. What if they don't respond? What do you do at that point?
That's okay. They don't have to respond, because most of the time you can tell if they've read the message.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I believe that relationships are a long nurturing thing. It might be a week, it might be a year, but my goal is to have interaction with them. If they don't respond, I don't get my feelings hurt. And I also don't think that they don't want to know me, because that's, I think, what people assume is, oh my gosh, they think I'm a creeper or whatever. I never feel like a creeper. So I think that it took me a long time to learn my genuine voice, my authentic voice in talking about Plexus. But I feel really comfortable with it now. And I feel like what I do is authentic to who I am. And so I don't feel like a creeper. I really feel like I love people and I love getting to know people. And so that I'm just using that to my own advantage.
Marianne, if you go ahead and unmute, I had to mute everybody. But there's still somebody that's not muted.
Okay.
Let's see if I can find them. If everyone can make sure they're muted, that would be great. Okay. So the people that don't respond, do you write them down on a list and then continue that relationship?
Yeah, so I put them in my contact management and I make a note of what happened. Like, I message them, and often I don't know if they're going to respond or not for days. So I put a follow-up task. And when that follow-up task comes along, it looks like this. I go to their Facebook page. I look to see what they're doing, what they're posting about. And then that's when, like, I might go back to private message them and ask them a question. If you ask them a question, they're more likely to respond than if you just say, hey, how you doing? Or whatever. If you ask them a specific question about something they have posted about, they're more likely to respond. And in my opinion, it doesn't really matter if they respond or not, because I know they've read it. And I will tell you, some of the people that I know really well, they will not respond right away to something that I message in Facebook. I have one friend who lives in another state, and she often doesn't respond. And then like I'll message her and said, hey, did you forget about me? Like, come on, I want to know the answer. Because I know her, I can tease her, but I know she's busy, and she read it and she just didn't respond at that moment. And then it got lost in her messenger. So I really never assume that people don't want to hear from me unless they come right out and say, don't message me again, I'm blocking you. Really, I just assume that people are busy and they're distracted, because I know I am, and that they just didn't do it that minute doesn't mean that they don't want to hear from me.
Right. And I heard one person say that if it's somebody that you know fairly well, and you've messaged them and they didn't respond, that you can message them and say, hey, Carol, I know that I want to make sure everything's okay. It's not like you to not respond.
Right.
I just want to make sure that you're doing okay. I messaged you and you didn't respond, so I want to make sure you're okay. A lot of times people will respond to that, even if
Yes.
they're busy.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Because, I mean, you never know. Somebody might be, there might be something wrong.
Right. I had somebody that was really super excited about Plexus, needs it bad, needs the business bad, was all in waiting for their next paycheck, and then ignored or didn't respond to many messages that I sent. And I knew they were still posting on Facebook. So I went to their wall and I said, hey girl, I just want to make sure you got my messages, because I've sent you a few messages and I was just kind of worried about you, and I hope everything's okay. And I posted it on her wall because she wasn't responding to my private messages. Well, sure enough, she went over to her messenger, read all the messages, because she hadn't even read them.
Yeah.
Read all the messages that I had sent and responded to me and told me what was going on. So,
yeah.
I didn't put any pressure on her. It wasn't about Plexus. It was like, hey, I really hope things are okay. And, Facebook is funny, and sometimes your messages don't get seen.
Right.
And they don't pop up as new messages, and crazy stuff happens because Facebook is fickle.
It's true. Yeah.
So you can't assume that they've seen your message and they just are ignoring you.
Right.
I always assume the best, because
yeah,
I think people have the best intentions, and nobody really sets out to be rude or mean or crazy, although we might end up being that way.
But that's such a good idea too, to go right on their wall that you send them a message, because I know that, sometimes, and we were just talking about this at our meeting the other day, a lot of times people don't realize that our samples and our, trial packs cost us money. And a lot of times I think that they think we get those things for free. And, if somebody does that, if you send somebody a trial pack for free or a sample and they don't answer a message when you're checking on them, I think it's by all means, you should reach out to them.
Yeah.
And, even on their wall and say, hey, I sent you a message. Be sure to check your messages. You can say it in a nice way, but I mean, it's only fair if we're spending our money to give them a sample, they should at least respond.
Right.
And the other thing that I do is, and I don't know if you do this too, but I weed out a lot of free samples that I give away by asking a few questions when I do a game, or if I do, if you want to try a sample, that kind of thing. I weed out a lot of people. There's a lot of people on Facebook that just want something for free. And, I know we've all learned our mistake. A lot of us have learned our mistake by, sending out 30 samples to people and then they don't respond to you, or they don't ever try it. Right. And so a lot of times I will, when they do win the game, or when they comment that they want one, or even if they message me, I'll ask them, I'll say, I would be happy to send you a sample so you could try it. If you like it, are you willing to become a customer? So that, we can start you on 30 days, because obviously you're going to need to be on it longer than one day to really see results. And 90% of your freebie people that just want something for free will say, oh, I can't afford to become a customer right now. I just really wanted to try it.
Yeah.
At that point, you say, okay, well, I really can't afford to send samples to people that aren't willing to buy if they like it. So when you can afford it, I'll check back with you in a month from now and see if you can afford it then, or when would be a good time for me to check back with you and see, or let me show you how you can get your products for free. If you, signed on as an ambassador and got 3 customers, you could get your products. Obviously the conversation leads into other places, but just by asking them that one question will weed out a lot of people that will tell you, no, I'm really not serious about it. And once they realize that the samples cost you money, they're a lot more likely to try it when they get it. And they're a lot more likely to respond to you whether they liked it or not. Because if they say, yeah, if I like it, I want to become a customer or I want to become an ambassador, then they're much more likely to try it. And that's your good potential.
That's so great.
Yeah,
that's
I really, that has helped me a lot. It's helped me. My next, go ahead.
2 things that I've done with sampling that has helped me is, 1, I don't call it a sample, I call it a taste test.
Okay.
Because it takes away the expectation that they're going to feel different. And so I just tell people, this is just a taste test. You're not probably going to experience any of the health benefits from one drink. It's something that you're going to have to do every day consistently in order to, maintain the benefits. But so I started calling it a taste test. That really helps because then it takes away that expectation. The other thing that I've done is, I don't send samples to everybody and their brother. I mean, I send out a lot of samples, but I ask a couple questions too. Like the first thing I ask is, I'd be happy to send you a taste test, but you have to promise me that when you get it, you're going to try it. Don't throw it on your desk. Don't put it in your purse. You have to promise me that when you get it, you're going to try it. And I expect you to tell me what you love about it. So keep that in mind when you're drinking it. I want you to think about what you really love about it. And that's helped me a lot. I get more responses now than I used to.
So set those expectations. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're messaging people, do you ever send voice messages or do you always text?
No, I send a lot of voice messages. Yeah.
Because I've heard people say that voice messages really are a lot better than texting at a certain, depending on the situation and at a certain point, especially when you are talking about plexus, when the conversation does turn to that.
Yeah, I don't usually send a voice message right off the bat, but then after we've had a little bit of a conversation, I might send a voice message not about plexus just because, and I'll just say, hey, I'm voice messaging you because I'm driving. And I just wanted to ask you this, or I just wanted to tell you that, whatever. So I might send a voice message then just because I think it's more personal when people hear your voice. And then it leads in easily to doing voice messaging about plexus because it's not a weird thing that I'm voice messaging people because I've already voice messaged them before and I use the excuse because I'm driving.
Yeah, I've done that. I've definitely done that. Do you ever get people on the phone?
Yes, but I find it exceedingly difficult to get people on the phone. I try to get people on the phone. I really like to use the phone. And I just find that people are resistant to the phone. Like it used to be everybody talked on the phone all the time. Now we don't. Now we just type on the phone. So I just find it hard to get people to have an actual live phone conversation.
Right. We feel like that too. Me and Rob were talking about that. It is harder to get people on the phone, but man, if you can get somebody on the phone, it's almost always they're going to either become a customer or an ambassador.
Yeah.
So always try if you can to get people on the phone because it's just that back and forth conversation that always is easier to close the sale. Always.
Well, and I will tell you, the minute that people start asking questions about plexus, when the conversation turns to plexus and people start asking questions, I've learned not to puke plexus all over them and write them a 300-page essay about plexus in a response. So a lot of times I will just say, hey, this would be so much easier if we could just chat on the phone. It'll take 10 minutes. You know, what's the best number to call you? Because, you know, Plexus is complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And people have a lot of questions. And so if I can just get them on the phone, then I tell them, I say, if we could just chat, I could answer all your questions and even the ones you haven't thought of yet. And that makes it easier to get people on the phone, but it still is hard. It's certainly not the majority of people that want to have a phone call with you.
Right. It builds trust, I think, too, when they're
I
on
do
the
too.
phone back and forth, it builds trust. But yeah, I mean, and there are a lot of people that are just waiting for you to ask that. They're like assuming that you don't want to talk on the phone. And especially when somebody's ready to sign up, that is a really good time to get somebody on the phone, because then you have a few minutes to talk to them about, you know, getting started. You can walk them through the sign up process so that they don't, you know, go change their mind at the last second. They're actually on the phone with you and you're walking them through the process. And I think that that's a really good way to do it.
Yeah. I always offer when they have 2 or
Yeah.
3 questions, I just say, hey, let's just chat on the phone. And the problem, most people don't want to do it. So
Right.
then I just answer their questions, but I only answer, you know, briefly. I still try really hard not to write an essay over Facebook Messenger because I think it works against us.
Yeah.
We think we're providing more information and we're answering questions they haven't even thought of yet.
Yeah.
But really, I think it works against us because they don't want to read all that.
Yeah.
And they get confused.
I love Candy's method of her copy and paste, that she has the depending on what question they ask, and
Yes.
you just come up with your own words. It's better to not have somebody else's copy and paste. It's better for you to think of the question that you get asked. What is Plexus? How much is Plexus? Come up with your answers for that and have it, you know, in a copy and paste on your notes in your phone so that you can just copy and paste that to somebody, because that way you can kind of control the amount of words you're using too.
The other thing that I think is helpful is don't use a lot of industry jargon. Use the words that they use when they ask you a question or when they tell you what their complaints are or what their health goals are. So I try not to use a lot of jargon words in my responses. I try to use the same words that they will say to me. And I think that helps for both the relationship. They feel like I've heard them.
Mm-hmm.
And it also helps them understand what I'm saying back to them. Because believe it or not, a lot of people, they don't know anything about blood sugar, and inflammation is like what happens when you sprain your ankle. You know what I mean? So yeah. I think it's helpful to do that, to use the same words they have asked you the question with.
Yeah, I love that. That is very true. Something I've never ever thought of before. And there are a lot of people that don't know. I mean, we become gut health experts as ambassadors. Right. All the stuff we read and all the different pages, testimonies and stuff that we're reading, we're almost become, you know, like medical professionals because we're reading all this stuff. And then people come in and they don't know anything about gut health. So we're going to talk about it in our lingo and totally going to make them think that they don't know anything or that they're not comfortable with this conversation.
Right. And can you imagine if you don't know anything about gut health, having somebody talk to you about flora and XOS and the microbiome? And I mean, I still don't know much about it, but I can use the words.
Right.
Like I know enough to use the words, but really that's not what people want to hear because it means nothing to them and it makes them feel stupid.
Right.
So I often talk about gut bacteria and flora and all that stuff as like, you know, you have these good guys growing in your gut and you have these bad guys growing in your gut, and you want to reduce the bad guys and flush them out so the good guys can grow. I mean, it sounds stupid, but really that's what people understand.
Right.
And I'm not talking to them like they're dumb. I'm just talking to them like it's funny that I can use this analogy of a garden growing in your gut. And it gets the point across. Do you know what I mean? And if they are in the medical field, I'm happy to talk to them about more of the, you know, scientific words and things like that. So it depends how they ask me the question. However they ask me the question, that's the same lingo that I use when I respond to them.
That's good. Okay, I have two more questions, and then we'll be done. I have one is what everybody always wants to know when you talk about building relationships before you talk about Plexus. First, for the first question, is a two-part question. How long does it take you to bring up Plexus usually? And how do you turn the conversation to Plexus?
So I don't think there's one answer for either of those questions. I think it depends on the relationship that you have with somebody. If I know what this person struggles with, I am happy to talk to them about Plexus right away, even if we don't have much of a relationship. But I always look for an in, you know? I always look for an in. People like to complain about whatever it is that they are struggling with. And so that is an automatic in to talk about Plexus, because Plexus solves 99% of our struggles. It's not going to solve your marriage. Can't do that. It's not going to make your kids listen to you, but it might make you more patient and less stressed and feel more rested. So there's always an in, because people like to complain. And so I think it depends a lot on how open somebody is in talking about their life. There are people who are really guarded, who don't post on Facebook, who don't expose what they're struggling with. I'm not one of those people. I really keep nothing private, so everybody knows everything about me. So I think that I gel better with people who are more open. People who are really closed off in private and don't share their stuff, sometimes I can guess what their stuff is, but it just really depends. It's kind of a gut feeling for when the right time is, but it doesn't come out of fear. I'm not afraid to talk to anybody about Plexus. So it's not fear that's holding me back. It's really waiting for the right in, waiting for the time that they're receptive and that I know that I have something that can impact their life positively. So there's not a set time. And I know you and I talked about just putting it out there because you have nothing to risk, because you really have very little relationship with this person. And that really, I tried that. It really didn't work for me, because I think it's not authentic to who I am. And so for me, I have really felt way more successful when I am true to my authentic self, which is that I care about people. I want to get to know people. I want to be in a bigger relationship with people. There's very few people on this earth that I think I have no need for them and I don't want to know them better. So that's what works for me.
Okay, so yes, Jessica, it can be a slower process from meeting somebody, building the relationship, and then signing them. Definitely in this way would be a much slower process, depending on, on the conversation. I mean, there's been many times where I've messaged somebody, hey, how are you doing? And they say, I didn't know you sold Plexus. What, tell me more about it. And on the very first conversation,
Yes.
It just depends on what they're going through, what they're, what kind of personality they have, or, did they look at your stuff and it sparked their interest? Okay.
I met somebody at this fashion event, and I just had a very brief, we just introduced ourselves and she asked what I did and I asked what she did. She's an MLM consultant, and we had a little chat, not about Plexus, but she knew what I did. I added her as a Facebook friend. I made a post that spoke to something that she struggles with. She private messaged me. We met for coffee the next day and she joined. So it's not necessarily a long process. It depends on who the person is and who you are with them. And I think mirroring the words they say, mirroring the tempo of their voice, mirroring a lot of their way in the world is very helpful in creating that relationship faster. Some people, it is a long process. because they're not going to give you a lot of information up front. I didn't know she struggled with this. I just happened to post something about it. And she commented on my post and then private messaged me and said, you were talking to me when you made that post. I had no idea. So right. I think by posting a variety of things, we also reach a variety of people who are struggling with things.
Right. And then even if it takes a while, one thing, if you're doing this with a large number of people, all those people are seeing your stuff. So you're posting all this great information about Plexus and your family and all this stuff. And the person, that's building trust each time they see one of your posts. And then you're also building that relationship. It's building the trust that they have. And eventually they're going to see how it would benefit them in one of your posts. Or the conversation is going to turn that way, one or the other. Yeah. But I know, Carrie Wilkerson, who spoke at our leaders retreat and, convention, she was at one of our local events that we saw her at, and she was saying that one of the really big mistakes is she's fairly connected with the Plexus community, and so she takes the Plexus products. She loves them. But she was saying how she has friends that are not with Plexus, and Carrie Wilkerson obviously has a really big following, so she knows a lot of people. And she said, she was told them she was going to speak at Plexus, and some of them were like, oh, is that the one where, if you post something that, 10 people message you and say, oh, I've got something for that. And she said, she was talking to the leaders, and she said, you guys need to really take back to your teams not to do that. You have to be in a relationship with somebody before you pounce on them as soon as they say, I didn't sleep good last night. Because if they get 15 messages from different Plexus people saying, oh, well, we've got something for that, and they don't even know these people barely, it's going to be a huge turnoff. But if they see your post and they didn't sleep well last night, or if you're in a relationship with them and you've been talking back and forth and they post that, then it's much more appropriate to go to them and say, hey, I saw that you posted you didn't sleep very good. You know that we have products that help with that, right? But you've already been in back and forth conversation with them, so it's not awkward.
Right.
So I think we got to be careful with that. I think we really have to be careful with that. We don't want to, pounce on people as soon as we see that they post something if we don't regularly talk to that person.
Right. Often what I'll do if they post something like that said they hadn't slept well in a few days or whatever, I'll comment on their post and I'll say, oh man, girl, sleep is my love language. That is so hard to function when you haven't slept well for a few nights. Has nothing to do with Plexus. It says, I understand, I feel your pain, and it builds the relationship. And then I might post the next day or 2 days or 3 days later about how amazing I sleep now after feeling like a train wreck for 8 years. So it's not directed at that person, but I know that person's going to see it.
Right. Yeah. I love that. Okay. My very last question to you, all this great. I mean, I know people have tons and tons of notes because I do. But my last question is, you have over $1,000 in PV this month, in addition to signing all those level ones. So tell me about that. Tell me about how you get customers. Like, do you give them the choice? How are you building customers and ambassadors?
So I tell people that Plexus compensates me no matter which way you choose to order our products. So I don't have a dog in the game. I get compensated well no matter how you choose to order. So here's the deal. Here's my advice based on what you're going to order and what your interest is in the business. Here's my advice. My advice is that you do this or that. You either are going to order as a preferred customer or join as an ambassador, because really ordering retail, we all know, makes no sense at all for anyone. So I usually give them the information, and then I make a suggestion based on what I have heard them say. And I always tell preferred customers that they can always change their mind and upgrade later to ambassador. The door's not closed. So I don't like people to feel trapped. No one wants to feel trapped. And I make sure they understand that Plexus does not trap you into anything. There's no minimum order you have to make every month. You don't have to meet a sales quota. Like, it's part of what I love about our company is that it lets people make their own choices based on where they are today. and your choice might be different next month, and that's okay. So I usually, based on what I have heard them say, I will make a suggestion, but I will present both options. And I believe in having a strong customer base all the time. So when I flip somebody up to ambassador, I'm looking for new customers at the same time. And not everyone wants to join. There's a lot of people out there who are just put off by joining. They think that there's more pressure to sell than there really is. And that's okay. They don't need to join.
Right.
So that's kind of how I work it. I really listen to people and I take it in and I tell them the information and then I give them my advice. And I tell them, you can choose whichever way you'd like to order, because I get compensated by our company both ways.
Right. And I'm the same way. I do think people should have a good customer base. And then you're working on those relationships with your customers too.
Yeah.
So they're seeing how excited you are about the business as they're trying the products. That's exactly what I do too. And then, I then will talk to them about, becoming an ambassador if I feel like that's something that would benefit them. But I definitely qualify people when they're coming to me to buy. If it's somebody that is just not sure, they just want to try the products for 1 month, they're just not sure, then I would definitely make them a customer.
Yes, me too.
Definitely not a wholesale ambassador if they're just going to try it for 30 days or if that's what they're thinking at the time. But I might tell them, if you love the products, then next month, let's think about you becoming an ambassador, because if you love them, you're going to want to share them. And I always put that in their ear so that they know that there's an option to make an income. A lot of people think that we just make products. They don't know that we actually make money until you tell them. A lot of people are shocked.
Yes.
I was for sure.
Yeah. And with that person, if they ordered as a customer and I wanted to remember to talk to them about flipping the next month before their auto ship went the following month, I would follow up I would put a note in my book or in my calendar or in my software, whichever you use, to make sure that I reached out to them 5 days before their auto ship was supposed to go, so that we could have that conversation before they had products sitting on the shelf.
Right.
Because that's going to make them wait another month.
Right.
So yeah, I just think there's room for everybody in this company, whether you're a customer or an ambassador. I don't think that there's, there's no best way for people to fit in. And once you talk to them and you kind of get a sense of what they want out of it and what their commitment level is, for sure, then it's easier to say, okay, well, here's your options. It doesn't matter to me because I get compensated either way. So you can buy as a preferred customer and get a discount, or you can join as an ambassador and buy it wholesale for the whole year and have the opportunity to make an income even off your own orders.
Right.
So it gives people that option. And I think it takes the pressure off of people making that decision when you tell them, we get compensated either way. Right. So I'm not going to push you. And I have people who join my team who have no interest in working the business. That's okay too. And it also depends on what they're planning on ordering. If they're only going to order slim, guess what? They're going to be a preferred customer because they're never going to have 100 PV. So they're not going to earn any money anyway.
Right.
And the discount doesn't make sense for them to join.
No, I agree.
So I kind of feel all that stuff out.
That's awesome. Okay, that is the last question I have. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and then if you want to stay on, we can answer a few questions on here. But I just want to say, before I stop the recording, I just want to say a quote that I saw today that I absolutely loved. It reminds me of you, Marianne, but also reminds me of what you just said at the very last thing, and this is for everyone that's on the call. And it's, success is liking yourself, liking what you do, and liking how you do it. And it's by Maya Angelou. And,
I love that.
And to me, that's what we're all about. And that can apply even to a customer, like what you just said. There's room for everyone, and that's what success is. If somebody just likes the products and they like taking the products and they like you, and so they want to buy from you, that's success. So everybody's, success is in a different way, but that's what success is. So if you're trying, whatever area you're trying to get to, that's what you should be striving for. Liking what you're doing and liking who you are, who you're becoming. I like who I've become in the process of Plexus. I really like that. That's what makes me feel successful. And I know you feel the same way because you're glowing.
I so do. I'm such a different person than I was 2 years ago, and I'm so thankful to be where I am today in my own family and in my health and in my business. And I literally was never going to work network marketing in my life. So
yeah,
there's a lot of potential for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Marianne.